Can I say this? Happy birthday, America. Yes, can I quote you on that? May I say this, that presented in this group of people is red and yellow, black and white. Isn't there an old song by that? Red and yellow, black and white, all the diapers are a sight? It didn't go like that. That's not how the verse went. But presented in our group here is stories of people who have come from all across the world to live in a land that we call America. And it's been a melting pot that includes my wife's family that came from Sweden, and it includes your family that came from Mexico, Pastor Francisco's family, which came from Honduras, and Tom's, which came from Meade. Hey, that's a faraway country there, I'm telling you what. But we've all come together, and God has brought us all together for a special purpose. And I wanted to say that because lost within the ranks of political things that are going on in our nation is the fact that God has brought us all together for a special purpose. And I am so proud to be a part of that, and so proud to be born and called an American, where I can come together with you from different countries, different places, different states, different ideas, whatever the case is, and we all came together with one accord, and it's good today to be able to say Happy Birthday, America, isn't it? Amen. Amen. And I trust that your 4th of July was great, and that it's continuing to be great. Just to give you an idea before we get started, what we're going to be doing, I know that many of you had heard that the King is dead. Elvis, that Elvis is not alive. But I'll let you make the choice on that in just a little bit. But I can tell you one thing, our King is alive. Amen. 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 And so today what we're going to do is we're going to hear music from the King. Right? Amen. Music about the King. And then what we're going to do afterwards is we always do this. We just enjoy a wonderful time afterwards of fun, of fellowship, of eating. And believe me, if you didn't bring anything, that's probably just as well, because there's going to be so much food out there, you're going to have to take some home with you. Don't take it home till we're finished eating. Please don't do that, all right? But there's some of you we haven't seen for a while. It's so good to see you guys from Texas, I'm guessing. Right? Yeah, it's good to have you back home. And Nick from all the way out there from Hawaii to Montana to, golly, who knows where, Missouri, Florida. But he's found himself back here home again. And those of you that have traveled out, it's great to have you as a part of our church service today. People are going to continually be coming in, and that's all right. We'll find your seat and get you good and comfortable in here. So if you have children, we have nursery downstairs if you want to take them down there. But the rest of the children, we usually have from children age for Children's Church downstairs. We're having everybody upstairs today. And I think you're going to really, really enjoy this. I'm going to let Steve tell more about... Where is Steve anyway?
Pretty hard to find Steve. No, it's Elvis you're looking for.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't find him. But I just think you're going to so enjoy yourself today. What we had wanted to do is that we wanted to have a time on this 4th of July where we could sing some old Elvis song, or where he could sing some. Our guest is going to sing some of the greatest songs that Elvis Presley would sing from his Southern gospel music, which is actually quite a large list of music, and then also some of his patriotic stuff. So we're going to do that. And so without further ado, I want to introduce to you Steve Creeson. Yeah. Come on. I've been this short in a long time. If I could just get everybody to do this, if you just kind of, if there's any room next to you, could you move in this way, then we can bring people down and seat them inside there next to you if we could. Thank you.
How's everybody doing today? It's a pleasure to be back here. I'll tell you my story here in a little bit, because I actually went to this church when I was a kid, junior high and high school, and was saved in this church and got baptized by the pastor here, Rob Tidwell at the time, out of Barber Ponds. And there's a lot more to that story, but we're going to get into that in just a little bit. But so I've got just a couple patriotic type songs I'm going to do right now, and then we'll get into the Elvis stuff with the Elvis gospel, because Elvis probably sang more gospel than he did anything else, and it had a huge impact on people. He'd break out into gospel tunes right in the middle of a concert. He'd have the Jordanaires step out and do a tune. Exposed thousands and thousands of people to Southern gospel music that otherwise wouldn't have ever heard it. But they would do the concert, and they'd go back to his room or wherever they're at and spend 4 or 5 hours until the sun came up, just around the piano singing gospel music. So it had a big effect on his life. But right now, we're just going to do a couple patriotic tunes. These aren't your standard ones, but this one is from Aaron Tippett, and it's called Where the Stars and the Stripes. Well, if you ask me where I come from, here's what I tell everyone. I was born by God's dear grace in an extraordinary place, where the stars and the stripes and the eagle fly. It's a big old land with countless dreams. Happiness ain't out of reach. Hard work pays off the way it should. I've seen enough to know that we got it good. Where the stars and the stripes and the eagle fly. Well, there's a lady that stands in the harbor for what we believe, and there's a bell that still echoes the price that it costs to be free. Well, I pledge allegiance to this flag. That bothers you, well, that's too bad. But if you got pride and you're proud you do, hey, we could use some more like me and you. We're the stars and the stripes and the eagle fly. Well, there's a lady that stands in the harbor for what we believe, and there's a bell that still echoes the price that it costs to be free. No, it ain't the only place on earth, but it's the only place that I prefer. Love my wife and raise my kids, hey, the same way that my daddy did. Where the stars and the stripes and the eagle fly. Where the stars and the stripes, the eagle fly. This one's actually a Neil Diamond tune. It's just called, Coming to America. It's just like Pastor Rob was talking about earlier.
We've been traveling far without a home, but not without a star. Free, only want to be free. We huddle close, hang on to a dream. Well, on the boats, on the boats and on the planes, they're coming to America, never looking back again. They're coming to America, home. Don't it seem so far away? Oh, we're traveling light today, in the eye of the storm, in the eye of the storm. In a shiny place, we make our bed, say our grace. Freedom lights burning warm, freedom lights burning warm. Round the world, they're coming to America. Well, every time that flags unfurl, they're coming to America. They got a dream to take them there. They're coming to America. Got a dream they come to share. They're coming to America. They're coming to America. They're coming to America. They're coming to America. They're coming to America today. 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 My country, 'tis a thee, sweet land of liberty, of the I seen
Well, once again, my name is Steve Creeson. We moved out to this area back in 1972, which was just couldn't wait to get out here because, it's great seeing a mix of people here. And we were going to school in Denver, and I remember being in elementary school, moving up into 9th grade, and kids I went to school with the year before, and we were all friends and all races and stuff. And then we went into junior high, and in Denver at the time there was this big segregation thing going on. And all of a sudden, for no reason, I didn't understand, kids that I was friends with the year before were now like on the other side of the fence. They're just like became enemies for no apparent reason. And when we moved out here, it was like freedom, moving out here to the country for one thing. But went to school here, and the population at that time was heavily, and probably still is, Spanish and Italian. But it didn't make any difference. Everybody got along. It was so totally different than living in Denver at the time. And it was just a wonderful time in my life to come out here. And started to go to church right here. It was called the Village Church at the time. And see Bob and Virginia Tidwell, he was the pastor here. And had used to take us on some trips over to Grand Junction to the Bible College. And I remember as in the youth here, he had an old steam tractor. Huge steam tractor. It was rated like number 2 in the state of Colorado, I believe. And we used to go over to his house and paint that thing up, get it ready for parades, and he'd throw some wood in there and put some water in there and get that thing steaming up and fired up. And we were driving down the road, and people would jump out of their cars and take pictures and jump on the back of it. It was a beautiful thing. We had such a great time. And anyway, it's a pleasure for me coming back here because through a Bible study, I got connected to Pastor Rob. And I believe it's definitely a God thing. It wasn't by accident. God's bringing me full circle, and I think you'll understand that in a little bit. Start praying, my boy. Anyway, went to high school in Erie. There's some gentlemen here I went to high school with. Eli. Hey, look back there. Right on. And a teacher there by the name of John Zielinski, Mr. Z. And a lot of people in this area know Mr. Z. The guy had a hop in his step, a twinkle in his eye, and loved God with all his heart, and he loved kids. And that rubbed off on him. And even though I knew of God and kind of Christ, I have never really met them or had a relationship with them. And Mr. Z had started a Bible study before school we were going to, and then he invited me to a David Wilkerson crusade in Boulder at the high school football field. And I remember Glory and Bill Gaither were there, and Dallas Holm was there. Nicky Cruz crossing the switchblade was somebody that David Wilkerson had gone into the city of New York, down into the area to just to find the games and to meet the leaders. And they took him to see Nicky Cruz, and he was giving him the gospel, and Nicky told him, "Why should I listen to you? You're coming here in your fancy suit and your $300 shoes." And so David Wilkerson took his shoes off and gave them to Nicky. Yeah. And so Nicky decided he would listen to him, and he got saved. It was a beautiful story. I read the book, if you haven't ever read it. It's Crossing the Switchblade. But I remember being there, and Dallas Holm was singing some praise songs, and then they gave the message, and he was giving the altar call, and he says, if you feel the Holy Spirit just tugging at you, he said, don't hold back. This is your day to me. So I went down and accepted Christ that day. And he's always had an effect on my life. Anyway, was coming here, and I got married here in this church, got baptized in this church, and had moved out to California. We were out there for about 5 years, and went to different churches out there. My wife at the time was coming down with some mental problems, schizophrenic tendencies. We didn't know it at the time that something was wrong, but knew something was wrong, but also knew that God wanted to bring us back here. And we had a house out there that we had bought 3 years earlier. The market was bad. Interest rates was back at the time that they were like 15 and 16%. And we put our house on the market. I knew God wanted us back here in this area. I've tried moving away from here like 3 times, and he just pulls me back. Can't get away. And I don't know why you want to. I mean, you got the beautiful mountains, you know. It's a great state to live in. But anyway, we put our house up for sale, $30,000 higher than any house on the block, because that's what I figured I needed to make the move back here and restart. The realtor lady wasn't a Christian, but she thought I was nuts and it wouldn't sell, and it was on the market 1 week and it sold. And she says, well, she goes, it must be a God thing. So we sold it and we moved back here, and was living in Fort Lupton for a while, and started coming back here to church. And Bob was still the pastor at the time, and he was starting to look for somebody to take over. And they had talked to me, the board had asked me to come see him, and they had talked to me about doing that because I had started a youth group here. And I was working at RTD at the time, and they even was paying for the tuition to go to like a theological school, and I started that. And I really enjoyed it. You know, I've had God's calling on my life for quite a while. And I remember my first sermon was here, and the last one I had done, and it was on marriage, and it went really well. And one of the things I remember from that, just a little side note, because they told me I passed the test later because of that, was during the sermon. And this place was not air conditioned back then, and it was not full like this either. And I just want to let you know, it's my heart does good to see how this church has grown, because that's one of the visions I had for it back then. There wasn't very many people in here, and I preached on that, and it affected a lot of people. And there was one of the older ladies that was coming at the time was sitting in the back, and I don't know if you've ever watched Lap and the little guy on the bike or the bench, and he falls over. Anybody remember that? He's just sitting there and he just falls over. Well, she's sitting back there. She just kind of like falls over. And I just kept right on preaching. And next thing you know, the fire department's coming in, the ambulance, and they're loading up. And I just kept right on preaching. And they told me, wow, that was good. It didn't even affect you. You just kept going. And well, anyway, she was okay. It's not like she died or anything, but yeah. But the sermon was on marriage. And because of my wife's illness, we were struggling a lot, moving around a lot. You know, anybody knows anything about schizophrenia or tendencies of schizophrenia? You know, you try to move to a new place, hoping everything's going to get better, and you know, it's not going to go away. The problem just follows you. It got to be a pretty bad environment. Well, you know, after this sermon, actually Bob Tidwell was the one that told me that he knew that there was something wrong, because Bob himself, he shared with me, he was on medication, and wanted to get, you know, said we needed to get something done. Well, part of the problem with that particular disease is getting that person to realize that there's something wrong and needing to get something